Greetings, children of the screen, your friendly neighborhood nerds come here, coming at you with what was originally going to be a quick thoughts video. However, a lot goes on in this book, and I feel like I have a little bit more to say than I can cover in like the usual quick thoughts format. So, today we're going to be having a, let's call it a not so quick thoughts, or how about a real thoughts? Let's, for now, tentatively, a real thoughts video on Amazing Spider-Man #1 by Spencer, Ottley, Ratburn, Martin, and Carmagna. And right on, guys, just one more further warning. In the quick thoughts videos, because I'm trying to keep things fast and succinct, there's a lot of stuff that I leave out. I also do that so that whether I like the book or not, there's still something for when you go buy the book on your own to explore and kind of find out for yourself. In this, I'm going to be going a lot more in depth, so there will be spoilers here, and if you don't want these things spoiled, definitely go pick up this book because it is a recommend. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right in. So here's a basic plot that goes on throughout this book. We start off with Pete and Mary Jane on top of a building, and Pete's in his black Spider-Man suit, and he's talking about how this is where he feels at home and he feels safe, and because he's with her. And then he wakes up to the sound of like a boom, and it turns out that it was a dream, and Pete now has roommates, because, you know, he lost his company and all that stuff. So he's got roommates, and one of his roommates is playing Call of Duty at 5 a.m. with all the Korean or Chinese video game players. And it turns out that this guy is not only a crappy roommate, but is also Boomerang. And Pete actually has like let him stay here to try to figure out what's really going on with him. At the same time, he's also got, what's his name? Oh man, Robbie Robertson's son is his other roommate, who's actually a pretty good roommate, who reminds him that he's late to a press conference at Empire State University. But then we transition into a gigantic cornucopia of like all the Marvel heroes. We got some X-Men, we got the Avengers, we got all kinds of people, street level heroes, big time heroes. They're fighting this huge invasion or like horde of like these weird green gooey disgusting alien things that are like popping out of these portals, when all of a sudden like Spider-Man shows up to help because they're kind of getting their butts kicked and nobody's happy to see him. No one at all. Like, not even Human Torch is happy to see him right now. So then we kind of transition back to the press conference at Empire State University, where it turns out that Empire State University has these people who have created a new version of, like, an what do you call it? And, like, basically, it's an anti-perjury software, because they're talking about like how now with like access to other dimensions and stuff like that, you have to be extra careful about plagiarism. So anyway, they have this anti-plagiarism software, so they call up one of their alumni who's in the audience, and it's Peter Parker. And they call him up, and they start scanning one of his papers from when he received his doctorate, which readers who've been sticking with Spider-Man for a while, or in the general know, would know that that period was whenever Dr. Otto Octavius had taken over his body during the events of Superior Spider-Man. So obviously the computer recognizes this as plagiarism. So now all of a sudden, like, his doctorates are at stake. He gets fired from his job at the Daily Bugle. Mary Jane gives him all kinds of crap about it. And of course, like, Aunt May hears about it as well and is super disappointed. Like, she just, like, out of all the things, like, she just has lost, it's made her lose, like, all faith in Peter, and it's just crippling to him. So we jump back over to the big fight in New York City, where, like, Spider-Man is lamenting the fact that, like, this sucks, not just for him personally, but really it sucks for all the people who love him and support him. Like, those are the people who constantly get hurt by him being Spider-Man. And what really sucks about it is, like, he knows the science of what Dr. Otto Octavius wrote those papers on. It was all about, like, studying random events to actually see the hidden patterns in them, which is whenever it clicks in his head that, like, these portals opening up are not random, that there's one main source, and if he can find that source and shut it down, then maybe he can end the whole thing. But it might kill him in the process. And he decides that, like, it's worth it. If that's how he has to go out, then he goes out like a hero, because it's the right thing to do. For all the people who have loved him and supported him, it's his responsibility to go down doing the right thing. And then he goes to do it, and Black Cat's like, "Where are you going?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go either end this or die. So, bye, Felicia." And then he's like, "God, I hope that's not the last joke I ever make." So he jumps up towards this portal, and then, like, as he starts to get there, here's where most of the spoilers start to come in, guys, so warning ahead of time. And he realizes that the portal's not a portal, it's a big glass orb, and inside of it is frickin' Mysterio. It's not an alien invasion, it's Mysterio having, like, tried to just, like, super up his game, and Pete's, like, stuck to the glass and crap. So, like, he just knocks, and Mysterio's like, "Oh, what son of a..." And then, like, Pete just smashes through and gets him and, like, strings him up and leaves him for the rest of the Avengers. And he's like, "Why'd you do it?" And, like, Mysterio is just kind of like, man, like, I was in a rut. Like, I kept doing the same thing. I kept getting beaten by you, so I just figured, like, why don't I just change my game and do something big and crazy to, like, you know, just one big gesture to change everything. And you know what I mean? And Spider-Man's like, yeah, I do. It sucks that it took you telling me that, but yeah, I do. And then we get what everybody is going to be talking about in this book, guys. The big spoiler. We have Peter Parker against a black backdrop, just pouring his heart out. And whenever he meets, like, his emotional peak, all of a sudden someone from off-page says, whoa, whoa, easy, Tiger. And you turn the frickin' page, and Mary Jane plants a big frickin' kiss on him. And she's like, we're in this together. We always have been. And then you actually get your break in the story and the title page. And it's back to basics. So, Pete and MJ are... there's more story. We'll come back to this. So then, like, the rest of the book, which seems more like a backup, but it's kind of like the secondary prologue, I suppose, is Mysterio's trial, where we find out, like, this is classic Mysterio. And he's back from the dead, because in the middle of his trial where he's trying to, like, represent himself, and he's, like, grandstanding, and the judge is having none of it, then, like, his lawyer comes in, and, like, he's arguing with the lawyer because he doesn't want a lawyer, but someone paid for a lawyer. And then, like, his lawyer starts throwing up bugs. And, like, we go into this weird hell sequence where, like, this dude who I know, he looks so familiar. I feel like I recognize him, but I can't place him right now. So, apologies for this. But this really messed up dude basically indicates that he brought Mysterio back, and Mysterio has something he's supposed to be doing for Home Dude, and Mysterio's failing to do it. Mysterio pleads with this dude, and the guy finally relents and is like, if you don't, I'm gonna track you down, and I'm just gonna drag you back to hell. And then, like that, everything's normal again, and, like, it's the middle of the courtroom, and Mysterio frickin' pleads insanity like his lawyer had wanted him to, and she's like, hey, that was a really good performance, even for you. And in his head, he's like, oh yeah, performance, or like maybe it was real, or maybe I'm actually going insane. So from the courtroom, we then cut to Empire State University, where Peter is talking to the woman who had ran the test on him earlier that basically concluded that his paper had been fraudulent. And he's basically like, okay, so do you need me to sign some stuff? Or, like, what do we need to have? And she's like, no, you don't understand. And she hands him, like, a stack of books and leads him to a classroom. And she's like, we were going to do all that stuff and probably, like, press some charges and all this kind of stuff. But one of our, like, staff members, like someone with tenure, like, vouched for you. And it's very hard to say no to him. And then, like, she escorts him into a class where, not Kurt Connors, the frickin' Lizard is teaching a class in front of a chalkboard. And he's like, Peter Parker, have a seat. And that's the end of the book. Is this big freeze frame on, like, the frickin' Lizard teaching at a dry erase board. So yeah, overall, guys, I enjoyed this book a lot. Not everything in it worked for me, but in general, it was awesome. Like, the artwork is absolutely great. Like, the character models are perfect and on point. Again, like, you know that I don't really like very caricature style, but the artwork in this book absolutely works for the story that they're trying to tell, and, like, it's that perfect middle ground. Also, the use of color in the book is really fantastic, because as I was reading the book, I never had a problem, like, figuring out when I was in terms of the timeline, or, like, what's happening when, because we're cutting back and forth so much. Whenever I started trying to break the book down to, like, describe it, I had more trouble than reading it, and I began to notice that that's because the way that the book is colored, like, gives you subconscious, like, hints at where you are. So even if you're not super specifically sure of where this falls on the timeline, like, you get a sense of, like, this and this and this, and you're never confused. And that has not only a lot to do with, like, the way that they transition in between in terms of story, but also in terms of the way that the coloring and the line works depict those different areas, and with, like, the colors and the feel of it. Now, Nick Spencer's writing on this book. Again, there's a few little things where, like, Spider-Man's trying to do his quips and it doesn't quite work out, and I don't feel that that's really, really great, but it also wasn't the worst thing I've ever read. Like, I've been enjoying, for the most part, Chip Zdarsky's run on Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man, but in his, like, first, like, 6 issues, I was having none of it. I hated it. So that I've been enjoying, and this I enjoyed quite a bit. And here's the thing, like, I know that Nick Spencer is a real divisive writer. My personal opinion is that Nick Spencer is a good writer. However, I do feel that in most of his work I've read in the past, whether it be the main Captain America book he was doing, or Secret Empire, or Doctor Strange, Damnation, which he did with Donny Cates. And again, on that one, it's hard to tell who has more responsibility. But anyway, the point is, I find that in a lot of his bigger stories anyway, he has a lot of trouble sticking the landing. But again, who knows how much of that is due to editorial mandate and how much of it is just due to his like particular writing style. But in general, I tend to think that he like creates a really good narrative that draws the reader in. He creates just enough characters to give you not only what you need in terms of like empathy towards the story and the character, but also characters that represent the world in a way that helps paint a picture of it. And I find this in pretty much any of his work that I've read. I actually really liked his run on Captain America pretty much up until Secret Empire started, and that's for me when it all fell apart. And so again, I don't know where he's going with this book. The introduction of like, you know, Mysterio being back from the dead is really interesting. Like him and MJ, like Pete and MJ getting back together. I don't know where that's going. Although I do want to mention that like whenever Mysterio's like, I needed to do that big grand gesture to like, you know, get out of the rut and like fix everything with one fell swoop. And Pete's like, yes, that's it. I don't actually know if Pete and MJ are going to be a couple that stick together after this, or if it's just going to be a story arc where we explore it. Either way, I'm down. But because of where, like, Peter got the impetus for that, I mean, obviously he was having the dream in the beginning, which also, like, feeds into it, but, like, I kind of feel like his logic there is flawed, and it feels like a very Spider-Man thing to be like, that sounds good. That sounds like it can fix everything, so I'm going to try that, and then, like, have it just not work out for him. So, either way, I'm interested to see where it goes. I don't know what Nick Spencer's overall plan is with this book. And again, like, he may not stick the landing. I hope he does. Because again, like, even if it's not perfect, I've just kind of gotten tired of a lot of the other Spider-Man stories, and this was a breath of fresh air. Like I said, there's some things I don't like about it. I'm optimistically cautious about the frickin' lizard teaching a class at the end of it. That's really goofy and silly. Also, like, the thing with, like, Boomerang being Pete's roommate, while like that's kind of cool, it also is like, it's just on the line of like, I might have to call bullshit on that, but it's a cool setup. It all just depends on how Nick Spencer plays it out. So either way, I'm interested to see what he does with it. All in all, guys, I really, really enjoyed this book, and I can't wait for the next issue. And I have to tell you, just kind of like with the Captain America book that came out, I didn't think I'd be saying that. So obviously, Marvel still has some books coming out that have issues, but it looks like they're trying to up their game. So this week, this book's going to be getting 4 out of 5 GGs and a definite recommend. Right on, guys, but that's just what I thought. Did you check this book out this week? Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. And if you like this video, please leave a like and share it with some friends. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit that little bell so you can get updates on all the dope content I'll have coming out in the future. Furthermore, if you'd like to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I will have the links for that in the description below. And make sure not to miss my Friday 13th celebration coming out this Friday, where I will have an unboxing video of Friday the 13th Part 3 3Ds, Ultimate Jason from NECA, and I will also be doing a special What You Mean You Ain't Seen, where me and the guys discuss Friday the 13th Part 4, my favorite Friday the 13th film. So once again, children of the screen, thank you very much. Hope you all have a good one. Nerd Scum, out.